Hello, and welcome to another video it's not another, this is like my first actual video where I'm talking to you people. So, anyway, this game, World of Horror, came out, and I've been playing it for a long time, but I feel that now that it's officially out, I should probably do something like this as a homage to my love for it. So, for those of you who are wet behind the ears and just getting started on the game, this video is for you guys. If you're already an expert, you're free to critique me and berate me all you want. Anyway, so for this video, we're going to assume that you beat the tutorial quest with the scissors lady, and you maybe tried extracurricular activity. And you hopefully won, or you died. Either or works. This video will serve as a foundation of knowledge for you guys to sort of get more of a hang of it, since the tutorial honestly doesn't, tutorial all that much. So here's some tips that I think will really help up your speeding progress. There will be some timestamps in the comment below so you can find your bullet points. And without further ado, we'll get right to it. Alrighty, so we're gonna talk about the first thing people screw around with too much. The difficulty. So with the previous remark I made about practice, something people do is, you want to try to be a try-hard, and you might want to try a harder difficulty and be like, oh, well, I don't need to do the baby difficulty. No, let me clarify that right away. You'll want to do the skeptic or the initiate difficulty. The reason for this being, it'll give you more wiggle room to margin forever. You'll get to learn new events and see kind of what works and what really doesn't. And, Aiko, over here.
Yeah.
You see this lady, Aiko? Aiko is the one that's usually recommended for newbies because she's really fast in combat. But, while that's true, I would heavily recommend trying out the other characters, because Aiko actually has a problem. She's not event-friendly. You see the stat over here? Knowledge? Well, you can't see with me in the way, but rest assured it says knowledge. So anyway, because of her knowledge, she kind of screws up a lot of the random events. And, when you're starting off, that can be really intense for you. But yeah, so this first tip doesn't really sound like a tip, but trust me, you'll thank me later when you're doing Harbinger of Doom and just being a lunatic and being fine. You really gotta get familiar with the groundwork in this game. You should absolutely not have any shame in starting with Initiate or Skeptic. Alright, let's go. So, my next recommendation is also the Old Gods, which we'll get into in the next segment. So, for the starting gods, any of them are fine, but I would insist on anyone who is not Katak Aurasu, the spider god. On top of making battles inescapable, he has some of the meanest sub-events that involve spiders biting you, leaving wounds that waste your precious funds to get rid of, and also, the whole inescapable battle thing, it's really bad message for early players. Because basically it's forcing them to fight all the time. But this whole game, there's times to fight and times to run. Knowing when to run away from an enemy is important. So starting the game with the god that's done let you run away, it could give you the wrong mentality for how to handle challenges thereafter. And well, if you played Fear and Hunger, you know what happens if you tire yourself out. Definitely fight if you gotta, but we'll get more on the nuances of fighting later. So yeah, if you are playing the customized mode, do not choose the Spooter god. Do not choose him. Choose any of the others. Personally, I like this guy, the Azraelzov, because I don't really use magic that much, but any of them will do. And ignore the fact that I have a fifth god, that's spoilers. So, let's talk about the home. This tip's probably in every video, but for the sake of posterity, I'll just get through it here. Anyway, as you can see, there's a bunch of menu options, but you can also click stuff in your home. You can click the cupboard to get an item. Sometimes there's nothing, but you might find library notes or a bottle of water. Anyway, let me see. Be sure to check it out first before you go on any adventure. If you get the book and learn a spell, you can recover your reason right away by going to the bathtub. Otherwise, if you get the bottle, you can fill it with drinkable bath water. Let me show you. Just click here to go to the bath. This is where if I had a bottle, I would click and you put it in the bottle. And after that, well, if you haven't taken any damage, I would recommend also getting the free experience boost since you'll usually be capped here. And if you see here, there's the XP. So once you get the water done, you're pretty much good to go. Except you're not, because there's actually more. In this menu where you can change your clothes, you can enjoy yourself in the mirror for a moment, looking good. But anyway, even if you don't want to change your outfit, then want to wear like the default, that's fine. But if you click over here, boop, you get free money. It can be really important, especially on higher difficulties where you start with 0 cash. It's not as important on the regular difficulty, but it's still nice to have. So you could either take it out now or save it for later. And lastly, before we end this segment, there is something I wanted to mention about the television. So there is this particular one. You'll want to try to get it before you leave, because this can unlock a character. It would be a good habit to get into if you haven't unlocked her yet. And with that, we're done with the apartment segment. And now we shall get into explaining the bulletin board, also known as where you get your missions. So this is a little tricky, but the first and most important thing you should remember is rerolling your mysteries. You can do it anytime. You get ones you don't like or don't feel like doing. So feel free to keep rerolling. You don't have to restart the game. It costs absolutely nothing for the first session. If you're new, you're probably not going to know what most of the mysteries are, so I would recommend just going on blindly and doing your best. But I might also recommend, if you see any with question marks, tackle those first, because they're ones you haven't done yet. Or if you have done them but died, well, do them then win. Now, once you are familiar with the mysteries though, I would recommend a good starting point is you choose a map, or you choose a mission that has an open map. Because if you choose one that takes you like into like a random house or something like the school one, you won't be able to go shopping. Shopping is one of the most important things you can do. Just, you know, get started. I also noted that, let me see, what was the note again? Right. After you're done with the preparation time, it's also recommended you don't pick one that has a boss at the ending. Because the bosses will wear and beat the crap out of you early on since you're not as prepared as later down the line. You scale. The bosses do not. Typically. There is one single argument made, however, that your character is healthiest early on, so it might be good to actually beat people up. You'll have to make your own considerations for this sort of nuance. But I would recommend in the early game, once you start knowing the maps, to go for open maps, not the closed ones. And also try to kill small fry, but run away from strong enemies while you're still weak. We'll get to battle later. Now then, on to the next segment. So, don't forget to use the prepare option at your house for a character-specific item once you have it. But since you're probably gonna start the game and don't have that option available, the next important thing is to shop in the downtown. So check your funds before going in. If you're playing on a hard difficulty, you'll probably have less funds. Remember that. Anyway, this is very important in the early game because there's more than a woe full of easy way out of situations you can get through here. Anyway, let me see. So, I do recommend early game is the dog biscuit, which is right here. Oh. Dog treat just makes everything cheaper. It's one of the best items you can get immediately. I would recommend it anytime, all the time. So it's not on the image right now, but the second most important item I think you should buy after the dog treat, if it's available, is the flashlight. So the flashlight is probably one of the most important things you can buy here. Even if you plan to equip something else in your B slot, just having it in your inventory is one of the most important things you can do. While equipped, it gives you a +1 on perception, which is nice to have. But the main function of the flashlight is as long as you have it on your person, you always have a light source. And you always want to have one because it can save you from a lot of pain in certain events. Even in the end game, in the lighthouse, there's a event that's dependent on having a light source, and it'll save you a lot of damage if you just have it on you. I believe it was reason damage, so yeah. And if you don't wind up buying the flashlight, you can usually pick it up during the run, so... But just remember, it's really important. Let's see, so... The second one is actually on the image, which is the camera. The camera... Certain characters start with it, but if you don't... This thing gives you 1 knowledge, which is cool. But on top of that, it actually has this cool action called Flash, which is a better version of the dodge action. A lot of people kind of sleep on dodging, and I understand why, because it doesn't mitigate all that, it just becomes a 50-50 chance. But the reason you want to take the Flash is because the Flash reduces the enemy's power every time you use it. This means that your hits become more accurate, and basically you won't have to use as much turns prepping your attacks or focusing the attacks. You could just keep flashbanging them and keep attacking repeatedly with your quick jabs. I cannot stress this enough, it's really reliable. The third most reliable would be the compass or the map. You don't need to get both. If you can get both, it'd be great, but if you cannot, then just pick one or the other. I typically prefer the map, but the compass is also really good because it gives you 2 EXP. The reason you want the map is because the map has a lot of events where you can get lost, and it'll just save you both the doom cost, and you usually get reason when you pass those checks. And they're the C slot, so it'll give you something to fill up. If you do wind up getting both the map, the compass, the flashlight, the camera, everything, then I would also recommend the backpack just so you can carry them on your person. But I don't actually use all of everything all that much. Like, when I buy too much stuff, usually what you want to do is you just grab it and just put it into storage if you're not using it actively. Because really, everything should just be in your storage. Your storage is good. You can find your stored items down here. And there's a steak knife. And you just put it back. You could also I also recommend putting quest items in here after you're done with their quest and all that other stuff. You want to keep your inventory tidy, but you do want to keep your important stuff on you. So yeah, the backpack is something I recommend if you really like hoarding, but not for practical sake, because it does take an inventory slot on your B, which could be used for something else. So yeah, that's it for the starting items. And with that, we'll go to the next segment, which would be socializing. Alrighty, so this is the schoolyard. Now you might be thinking, well, my character has low charisma, I don't need it. No, please sit down and listen, I'll get to that. But for now, this segment is better for characters with charisma, so you're half right. So yeah, if you're playing Mizuki or anyone with charisma for like 5, like maybe a 7, then yeah, you'll want to come here. So this is the schoolyard, this is where you can meet friends and recruit them. Please go away. You just click to them, you can talk to them, try to recruit them. Talk, recruit, talk, recruit, talk, recruit. And once you recruit people, you can see their stats here. And as you can see, I have a charisma now, so maybe... Nah, I guess you're not that lucky. Anyway, I'd suggest coming here right after you finish your shopping, because allies can give you, again, those little perks you saw there. If you recruit someone else, you'll want to double back, because that charisma +1 might let you just have enough to recruit someone who refused earlier. Anyway, yeah, so they're free stat points and they cost nothing. No harm in taking one look. If you wind up not getting anyone, that's not the worst thing in the world because of the next segment, which is the real reason we're here. The rooftop. So after you head to the rooftops, you want to look at the bottom of the notification screen right away. Don't click on anything. See how she says, tap, tap? So, the girl here. What she says is something involving bows or claps, which in this case is just tap, tap. It's the first 2 steps to performing an exorcism, which is really vital if you want that exorcism achievement and really good for killing ghosts. It's usually a 5-step mantra, so getting 2 of them known correctly is really cool and helping you save time with that. Tap, tap. We'll get into exorcism another time, but yeah, this is actually really important information if you're gonna aim for exorcising ghosts. Of course, if you're not aiming for exorcising ghosts and you don't have charisma, then don't come to the schoolyard at all. But yeah, this part is helpful even if you're not a charisma boss, so yeah, that's about it for this rooftop. Short segment. Next one is the big one I dread. Well, here we are. Fighting. So, I'll be honest. This part probably needs its own comprehensive guide because fighting is one of the most complex things in World of Horror. If you've ever played the tabletop game Call of Cthulhu, you probably have the gist of it in your head already. You're the weak human, and also you're probably gonna die. It's just best to avoid it entirely. In fact, in World of Horror, when it's available as an option, you have a 100% success rate when it comes to fighting. Or, not fighting, but escaping. You will never fail when it comes to running away or giving up hope. So if I were to just click here on defensive actions and run away, that would work. I would just leave immediately. There is a 5-point doom penalty when you take the option, and it can be mitigated with invisibility spells and maybe other means I'm not aware of. But that said, there is a reward for fighting. Engaging in the encounter gives you some sweet EXP and an item. So you're probably thinking to yourself, when do I know when to run? Typically, you'll do that when you're losing. But actually, I'd recommend the opposite. You should consider running away before it even gets that bad. Because, let me put it like this. If you're knocked down to 1 stamina or reason, and then run away from the encountering, well, recovering will be tough. To avoid getting those situations with your back constantly against the wall, it's important to know what information to look for when the encounter starts before you want to commit or not. Because when you run away, you don't keep anything besides the bruises, so it's optimal to decide right from the get-go if you're gonna run, if you're gonna commit to it and actually fight them down. Now, let me help you out a little bit. I can help a bit with some generalized tips. The first thing you're gonna want to discern is your enemy stats. So, excuse you. On the left you can see plenty of things about them. You see their HP, the type of damage they do, whether it's to you, your stamina, your reason, or both stamina and reason, which is less favorable, like this guy. That's a little more dangerous. Let me see. And the last one is the power, which determines how hard it is to hit them. The lower you make the power, which I mentioned earlier with the camera, the better it is for you to smack them down. Now, after you take all that consideration in, you're gonna wanna consider yourself real quick. So we click on status. You're gonna wanna consider your hit points, your reason, any allies and perks you have, which I have none right now, but you'll probably have something. Your spells, if you have anything to heal with, to fight with. This is support and not fighting spell. So something to note is that spells can be used immediately. So if you have a powerful attack spell, you could just nuke this guy to death without even worrying. Even though it'll cost you Doom, Reason, Stamina, or whatever else have you. Or you can also heal if you get in a bad situation. Like if I were to get my Stamina to 0 and use this Flesh Regrowth, boom, I'll be back and ready to fight. So something else to consider though is if you do have the camera, the flash option is in your support action, and I don't think I equipped my camera, shoot. But dodging is typically good when you have the enemy dealing only 1 damage, because it's not going to matter if they hit too much. Brace for impact is a little more... it halves the damage you take and it negates stuff like bleeding or concussions. You'll have to learn what enemies give you bleeding or concussions and other elements, but brace for impact shouldn't be ignored by any means, especially if they deal more than 1 damage, like this guy dealing 2. It typically rounds, I believe it was rounding down. Let me see, what else do you have to consider? Yeah, some enemies have an A and B thing here. Not this one, but if they do have 2 enemies, you should worry about taking out who's targeting your stamina or reason, depending on which is lower, because you don't want to die. You need to take down anyone targeting your weak points first. There aren't too many battles where there's multiple enemies, but it's just something to keep in mind. I believe that's about it for now. So with that done, we'll get into the next segment. You know, actually, honestly, if you think that the bad guy won't deal all that much damage to you, you shouldn't even worry about defending and just bum rush him. Like, this guy is kind of a jobber, so I'm just kind of bum rushing him. And, oh right, you can also save the sequence, you don't have to keep putting it in. Well, thank you for the handcuffs. Alright, now really to the next section. Alrighty, and we're finally in the last section of the video. Sorry it's been a little unprofessional, I wanted to record it live for the most part. Anyway, magic is lame, so don't touch it. The end. Well, I guess I should probably talk about it a little bit. I actually don't like magic all that much, but I did dabble into it a little bit just for the sake of the video. You're welcome. For without you, I would have no motivation whatsoever. Anyway, let's get to it. So, magic. Let's see, what did I write down? Magic is like in Call of Cthulhu. So if you played that, you probably have the gist of it. But magic basically, it costs stuff. And this game doesn't have MP, as you've probably noticed. Rather than MP, it'll cost your stamina, your reason, or Doom. Doom is probably... ouch. Doom is probably the biggest resource, but it's also really dangerous to play with, so be careful. There is a god that makes all the magic only use Doom, so if, for example, Mind Drain says it costs 1 max reason, or this says 3 reason, or 2 stamina, it'll just cost the reason, the Doom. The number becomes converted to Doom percentage. So it'll be like 3 Doom percentage, 2 Doom percentage, blah blah blah. Ignore the level up. Anyway, to get more into it, when you use a spell in battle, or during the event, it doesn't make time flow, so you could in theory get big damage nuking spell, spam it, and the bad guy will die. Or you could patch yourself up in emergency. For example, if you get an emergency and your hit points go below 0, like you might want to just patch that up right away in the fight. Don't let them get you down to like -5 or it's over for good. You can learn spells by going to the school library or pick them up through events. Getting certain spells you want isn't a consistent thing, but when you do get it, it'll feel really good. But yeah, the spells you get here will be random, so you just click study the old tomes. And you get a spell. You can click the book, and you can study again if you like, rather than leave, which is very important to do. So because spells are a diverse thing, they'll probably get their own video where I'll delve into each one. But, what you'll want to do is you're gonna want to just sort of cycle through them, and even if you wind up not using a spell, you can always just tap it away and get some reason. That is another use for spells, is just to recharge your reason if you're dying from your reason loss. Don't be shy to sacrifice them. The spells will come back, but your body will not. As a rule of thumb also, spells like Flesh Regrowth that lower your max stamina, for example, these spells are actually really good because you'll probably never see your max stamina anyway. So feel free to just sort of use it over and over as necessary. Don't go crazy with it, of course, but yeah, you'll want to be tactful with it. Make sure you know when to do it. As long as you survive, that's the most important thing to worry about. As long as you keep yourself over to 0. And with that, I think that's it for the tutorials right now. If you liked the video or want me to go into further detail on something, let me know in the comments. I might make more segments for the fighting and magic and everything else, the events as well, if people really like this video. So please do. On a personal note, I do like comments more than views, so just leave any comment you can think of. Enjoy! I hope you love this game. I love it a lot. I've been playing it so much. There's not really much else to say. I always thought that kind of stuff was lame, so yeah, we'll see you later, guys. Have a good one. Ciao ciao.